Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Alexis and today I'm doing a get ready with me. So you will see me attempt to do this process on video as I talk through the books that I read for January 2024. Yes, it's been a while, but you know, catching up. So let's just get into it. I'm going to start doing a get ready with me. It's first time, so please don't judge me too harshly, but essentially I'm going to try to put on my makeup without contacts. So again, give me grace. But I do feel like it's about time I share my January and now February reads, considering both months have ended. Let's get into it. I did use Hydro Boost by Neutrogena. I just tend to stick to this brand. I don't really know pros and cons, so please don't come at me for skincare stuff because that's not what I do. I just prefer to carry on with whatever I like. And yeah, that's about it. So since I already washed, I am going to go in with the Hydro Boost Hydraulic Acid Water Gel. Feels hydrating. Again, I don't know how effective, but yeah. The first two books I read during the month of January, I'm not going to touch too much on because I did an entire video talking about that series, and that would be the Whitmorelands series by Valerie Bowman. So all the more reason I wanted to split those up just to, talk about them on their own. I did enjoy it. It pretty much got me back interested in historical romances. It's not that I've never been interested in them, I just haven't been gravitating toward them as much. So books 2, 3, and 4 of that series I talked about in my series specific video. So feel free to check that out for the thoughts. Books are The Marquess Move, The Debutante Dilemma, and The Wallflower Wins. So I enjoyed this series, as I mentioned. Feel free to check out that video for full disclosure. Moving on. Next, I have the Hydro Serum. Sometimes I put this first, sometimes I put the gel on first, but at the end of the day, they're both on my face. Again, not sure how effective they are. I just tend to like the cooling feeling when they go on, and that's about it. So I put one on my forehead. Ooh, totally missed. Felt on my nose though, and then cheeks. Mind you, I can't really see that well because I don't feel like putting on my contacts. But here we are. So next book I completed was book 2 in the Bergman Brothers series by Chloe Liese. Part of the reason I was continuing the series, despite giving the first book 3 stars, was because I did enjoy the found family aspect, and perhaps it was just the way that trope was played out to me. It was okay. Will I go back to that particular book? Probably not. And I did end up continuing the series, so I really enjoyed other books. Just the first one is not particularly my favorite, but that doesn't mean I'll stop at the first book. After that, I follow with my moisturizer, but for the sake of this, I'm not going to put that on right now because I'm not going outside, so I don't need SPF right now. At least I don't feel like I do. And then I'm going to put on NYX the Bear With Me because this is primer for makeup, but this is just for me to practice because I was never really avid about putting on makeup, and I'm still not doing it on a daily, so it doesn't hurt. Plus, I'm hoping to put some on next week because going to Kennedy Ryan's event, and I definitely want to take pictures with her and feel presentable. Not that you're not presentable without makeup, because I do that on a daily again, but just feel like I am doing something different, which again I am, and it's going to be my second official signing for an author, but she is my favorite author. And the place is conveniently near my work, so of course I'm going to get dolled up right before. Now I'm going to go ahead and add e.l.f. cream eyeshadow. I like this because it's white base for my color eyeshadow. I feel like it ends up being more vibrant when I apply it to my eyes. So I'm gonna kind of do this a little off camera, so if you can't really see, sorry. But book 2 of the Bergman brothers is essentially following Ren and Frankie. I did enjoy this more than book 1. Ren is pretty much the sunshine character between the two. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do this off camera because your girl's struggling. Okay, so now that that is added, I'm gonna go ahead and actually grab my color palette before I continue telling you the spiel of Ren and Frankie. Frankie is essentially one of the people who work with Ren's hockey team. This is a palette I'm using, by the way. I'm probably going to try the shades of green because, again, March, St. Patrick's Day, summer is coming closer. Yeah. Frankie is essentially one of the people who works with Ren's team. And she is very much like Grump. She is the Grump in this Grumpy Sunshine. She has some disability representation. She walks with a cane, but she's very much that powerful character you don't want to underestimate. But yeah, she knows what she's doing. And Ren has kind of always been interested in her for as long as she's been working with the team. But of course, he refrains from doing anything because he knows she's on the job and she takes it seriously and he respects her enough. He also is a celibate character, so I did appreciate that little added touch for him. And he's very understanding of her condition. He is sweet on her, but he wouldn't treat her any differently if she wasn't in that condition. So I really appreciated that about his character again. But yeah, this was a sweet romance. I don't really know how else to describe it. There's some close proximity in here. There's, of course, workplace romance because he is the hockey player and she's one of the manager type legal people for his team. She also plans on pursuing law school after the events of the book, so I thought that was cute. They had some shared moments on Bergman property. They went to beach house, yada yada yada. All in all, 4 out of 5 stars. Actually, I think for a little more added dimension, I'm going to try this more bluish green as well with the other 2 greens that I currently got going on. But not me trying to use the viewfinder as my mirror as well so you can see what's happening, but ooh, I kind of like that. So yeah, I think I'm going to keep doing that. But yeah, the next book I read was by Amalie Howard, and that is A Duke in Question. This is book 3 in the Daring Duke series, I believe. And this is, of course, historical romance, kind of spy aspect in here. Suspense, disguise, virgin heroine, etc., etc. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead with my concealer, also by NYX, and I'm probably just going to use this brush. I'm not sure if it's actually supposed to be for contour because, again, I don't do makeup like that. But this is what works for me, and until I learn or decide to learn otherwise, it's just not going to happen. So I'm going to put a little bit under the eyes, a little bit on the nose, a little bit on the forehead, and of course I keep my bonnet on because hair needs to be out my face when I'm in the works. Do a little bit on the smile lines as well. Maybe I'll do a touch more on the cheeks. But that's about it I do for concealer. Then I'll go in with contour afterwards. But anyways, I'm getting off topic. This book essentially follows Bronwyn and Valentine. As of this moment, I hardly remember anything of that book, but looking back at my comments that I made about said book, Bronwyn, very witty character, more knowledgeable than expected for a virgin heroine, and Valentine wasn't expecting her in the least. Essentially, she is on a trip to Philadelphia from England, and he so happens to be in the same place at the same time as her. She's trying to do some spy work to help the American North, I believe, depending on the time period. I'm pretty sure she was just trying to help with the American Civil War for the North and get some important paperwork involving Confederate side, but she's really not supposed to interfere, whatever. But of course, she's trying to do the right thing with the information that she possesses. Whereas Valentine, he has also his own history of being spy or in that, interrogation field on behalf of the crown. So he, of course, isn't aware of Bronwyn's motives and her own mission that she's trying to do for the greater good. They have their own ship romance. He follows her around, ends up helping her, and she helps him when they are attacked or set upon by the bad guys. Don't mind me, I'm trying to click confirm. Okay, yes, this is my eyeliner. I'm going to go ahead and do this off screen as well, but I need to start talking about these books because it takes forever. I didn't realize how long it takes just to talk about a book. But yeah, Bronwyn and Valentine, they are on this mission together when he's kind of like trying to watch out what she's doing because he doesn't know, and she's trying to keep it from him. Of course, they have some spicy times. One that I do remember vividly, however, is when they're in the woods, when they're on the run, and they have adrenaline pumping. Essentially, it's Bronwyn's first time, and she kind of knew what to expect because she's educated. She reads, and Valentine wasn't aware, but of course he kind of feels bad about it afterwards, and that was kind of annoying. But all in all, I enjoyed this book. Of course, there's some diverse representation in here. Molly Howard does that. The main characters don't have a lot of like color in their heritage, but they do have some interactions with side characters as well. This is also considered Brother's Best Friend. All in all, I gave this 3.5 stars. And now I'm going to go ahead and put this lining before I continue on. Next, I am going to put in mascara, if you can see what that is, and if not, it doesn't really matter because I'm not a makeup person, but I'm trying it anyway. So next book I read was Ever After Always by Chloe Liese. This is book 3 in the Bergman Brothers series, and considering even the books I read after, I believe this is my favorite in the series because it is second chance. We have a hero who is dealing with anxiety and anxiety attacks or panic attacks, and it's between Aiden and Freya. Longtime marriage mentioned in other books as well, but they have marriage in trouble in here. So because of Aiden's panic attacks and his situation, Freya thinks that he is pulling away, and again, it's because he's not communicating with her, he's not confiding in her. He's very much of the line that he is going to deal with it himself. He doesn't want to be a burden to her, and she is feeling fed up, so finally she's putting her foot down. Yes, she kicks him out, and he kind of goes to one of the other Bergman brothers siblings. I do appreciate that as well. It's him having this brotherhood bond with the Bergman siblings. They accepted him fully and they love him fully and unconditionally, so that's why they care about him so much. That's why they want them to move through this hurdle together. Freya is also a busybody like Aiden, so Aiden's more so in the lines of tech and trying to get his business started with a partner, whereas Freya is a full-time nurse on her feet in the hospital, working. But she has her own struggles trying to manage that as well, and really she does contribute to maintaining the facade of them being happily married until she finally, puts her foot down and says, hey, you need to leave, we need space. But I appreciate this so much because when Aiden comes back, he's the one to be like, I want to go to marriage counseling with you. So that's where they deal with their issues. They confront their issues together, not at first in the most proactive way, but they do eventually work through it. I'm gonna go with this now for the brows. Don't know if you can see that. Oh well, it doesn't matter. It's just basically mechanical pencil-ish for the brows, and I'm just gonna use this to fill in as best as I can. I think I'm gonna do this and come back. Yes, I came back and I can finally see again. I was able to put in my brows. Honestly, I just fill them in. That's about it. Then I'm gonna go ahead and add blush. But before I do so, yeah, Ever After Always is Marriage in Trouble. It follows Freya and Aiden. They are working through things. Aiden, on his side of the family, was raised by a single mother, but they struggled financially. His father left. So, little backstory there. Whereas Freya comes from, even though it was a big family, they were very loving and they didn't feel as if they missed anything. Of course, you know, it's not easy with a family of 7 kids, and no family is easy with kids. Family in general is not easy. With that being said, Aiden felt like he need to make up for it or take care of Freya, but of course she reminds him, hey, this is a partnership. You don't have to do it by yourself, which is why I want you to confide in me. I want us to do this together. And they come to the point where even if it's just us, I'm going to always be happy with you. With or without a kid, if we are able or not able, I'm gonna love you ever after always. And I just love that. So yeah, as of now, favorite book in the series. Right now, I give it 4 stars because I do feel like the backstory of Aiden's side of the family could have been more fleshed out considering what happens at the end. But I'm not mad at it. Like I said, I gave 4 out of 5 stars. Okay, the reason why I kind of do my eye area first is so I can see with my glasses, but I need to get into contour next, and I very much love this palette. It's very dirty, but you know, that's a sign of use, and I use it, so it's okay. But next book that I completed was An Earl to Remember by Stacy Reid. This is book 2 in the Unforgettable Love series. I did listen to the audiobook. Oh, I will preface by saying most of the books, I believe, in January I did read by audiobook. If I haven't mentioned that before, definitely the ones I read before An Earl to Remember were also audiobook. But essentially, this book is a historical romance. There's class difference in here, romance with children, there's amnesia trope in here, caregiving, mention of loss of loved one. So if you haven't already read the first book is A Matter of Temptation. This book is essentially historical romance meets overboard that has been commonly said by people who have read this book already. I again really enjoyed it, but this follows Georgiana and Daniel. I just needed to double check their names. Maybe don't mind me adjusting my bonnet. I need to, you know, get some contour up in the forehead, just a little bit to round out the face. And then now for the nose. But Georgiana is of the working class now because of her family situation. Her parents, specifically her dad, passed on and kind of left it all up to her following the passing of their mother prior. She has 3 younger sisters. Honestly, I can't remember how many sisters, but I digress. She has younger siblings that she feels obligated to look out for, and at the end of the day, she kind of is because she's the eldest. But she gets this opportunity to cook for the Earl's event. It was some kind of celebration. Daniel's the one who hired her, and at the event he already has his other woman. They were planning to do something with other people. But I think that's about okay. Oh gosh, this is kind of heavy. I'm not afraid to use my fingers. It is what it is. Just even this out a bit. Yeah, it's okay. But yeah, he basically was trying to get involved with the other woman, and Georgiana unknowingly enters the same room to deliver his food, not knowing he would be there, naked as a baby, and he thinks that she is one of the people that his mistress invited to, do their thing with them. But of course, mistress comes in, realizes what they were almost about to do, and Georgiana leaves in a huff. Mistress gets him to fire her, but he does try to compensate her for her work and go ahead with that. Yeah, finally removing the bonnet, as you can see, got my little twists out, so I feel so much better. Before I continue, I'm gonna go ahead and get some blush. Got the Sephora brand blush. Not that again matters because you probably have other interests than I have. So Daniel does try to compensate her for her work. Georgiana is kind of proud about it and doesn't accept. But around that time when the butler or one of his servants, whoever, was giving it to her, Daniel is having conversation with said mistress, and mistress gets huffy and puffy and accidentally pushes him overboard, hence the connection with overboard. When he finally awakens and he's rescued by townspeople, he can't remember who he is. But of course, when for some reason he seems to remember Georgiana, not knowing that they've interacted with each other already, Georgiana acts to the townspeople in order to protect her reputation that she didn't know this man for other nefarious or precarious reasons. She claims that he is her husband and they got married in secret. Of course, Daniel can't deny this because he has no memory or recollection of meeting her. So I think that's about it for makeup for now. That's kind of where the story goes, and Dylan has some moments with said younger sisters. I want to say she had 3 sisters. 2 of them were maybe in the single digit years, maybe early teens, I can't remember quite. And another sister who was the second eldest of the siblings, who was just a little bit younger than Georgiana. But of course, Georgiana starts to get attached. They are together for a short period of time before he is recognized by someone close to him and the truth gets out. Yeah, I gave this 5 out of 5 stars, and I believe this was my first 5-star of the year, so that's saying something. After that, I continued with romancing Mr. Bridgerton. Yes, this is book 4 in Julia Quinn's series, and with the new season coming in May, well, part 1 anyway, and then part 2 sometime in June, I was just in the mood to listen to the audiobook again. This is my favorite couple from the book series because, I got their vibe in the show and I already knew to expect them to be together, just how they were laying everything out. And I was very much interested in going into the story afterwards. And since then, it's the book I've read the most in that series, which again makes sense because I like revisiting their story. After that, I went with Children of Fallen Angels. This is by Carissa Broadbent. It is book 2 in the War of Lost Hearts series. It is a follow-up to book 1. It's continuation, and I still have to read book 3 as of now. But yeah, it's a fantasy romance. There's slow burn in here, but again, following the same couple from book 1. They're already together, but because of life events, they can't physically be together. But they are committed to each other. There's oppression in here, war, violence, slavery, abuse, murder, manipulation, all that. And there is somewhat of a mystery or secrets revealed situation going on here. One of the other predominant characters from book 1 is involved in some way, but at the beginning of the book, you don't know how they are involved. I could probably argue that there are actually 2 other characters aside from the main couple who are of high importance in this series, but I have yet to play the rest out in book 3, and I'm not going to go too much into book 2 because again, it's a continuation. It's war going on, it's dynamics of power and control, all that, so If you are interested, just take a look. I did listen to the audiobook. Next, I went to book 4 of the Bergman Brothers series by Chloe Liese, and that is With You Forever. It's a marriage of convenience. There's autistic representation in here, chronic illness, caregiving, and close proximity. This follows Rooney and Axel. Axel is the eldest of the Bergman Brothers siblings. He is an artist. He recently found out that he is on the autistic spectrum, and he always knew he was attracted to Rooney since she was introduced to the family. Rooney is the best friend of the heroine from book 1, and that's kind of where she was adopted into the family by extension. She, on her end, is experiencing issues as well with her health, and she needs to leave school for a bit in order to figure things out. Then she realizes Axel was kind of in a situation where he needed to get money really quick, and the only way he could do that would be to marry someone for convenience, to gain access to inheritance, to take care of Bergman property that is kind of supposed to be taken care of by the family, but he wanted to take it all on by himself. Of course, Rooney agrees to it. Axel's really sweet with her, but you don't really know why, or at least she doesn't really know why. Of course, as the reader, you're going to know. But yeah, there's, of course, a dog in here. For Rooney and Axel, I gave 4 out of 5 stars as well, but I did not enjoy it as much as I did the story of Aiden and Freya. After that, I went into Any Duke in a Storm by Molly Howard. This is one of the arcs I gained access to through NetGalley. I will say that this book also features spy, suspense. It's kind of a pirate romance in here as well. Historical romance, of course. There's betrayal, revenge, mention of death of loved one in here, swordplay. There is involvement of a child. It's not biologically anybody's child in the couple, but, you know, involvement in there. There is some diverse representation in terms of the hero and side characters, and LGBT plus representation for both the hero and the heroine, so I did enjoy that as well. So this book follows Lisbeth and Raphael. Lisbeth is still working a case or mission on behalf of the crown. She's been doing so for a couple of years already, and it's leading her to the same location that Raphael was imprisoned for something that his uncle had done in order to get him in prison, because there is some unfortunate history for Raphael between him and his uncle. Lisbeth, she is on a mission and she has to be in disguise as the captain of a ship. Raphael finds refuge on said ship in exchange for work. So that's how they end up together, and they go on this pirate journey. I am not too much of a fan of pirate romances in general, but somehow this kept me intrigued enough. I will say toward the last quarter, I was kind of like, okay, this is wrapping up a little fast. Could have been more fleshed out. The reveal of the motives were too simple for me. I would have liked there to be, you know, a more climactic moment, but I digress. After that, I finished A Shore Duke by Christi Caldwell. Excuse me if I'm not pronouncing the name correctly, but this is book 3 in the McCoys of Mayfair series. I knew this was part of a series already and more into it, but I just wanted to test it out, and plus I got the arc for free, so I might as well. But this book follows Alexandra and Dallin, or Dallin, again, can't really tell how it's pronounced, but they are neighbors, and one night Alexandra decides to sneak out of her home to go onto his family's property under a dare from her 2 younger sisters. She then accidentally meets Dallin. They have this night together of just talking for a long period of time, and you can tell there's some tension there, some intrigue and interest, the promise that he will pursue her during her season because she had yet to come out into society. But alas, that doesn't happen, and she ends up experiencing some tragedy in her family. This is historical romance. There's mentioned loss in here. There is misunderstanding. There's theft. Of course, some dancing involved. Risk of destitution, and the heroine is still a virgin, so they do have some moments in here as well. However, I will say, because this resulted in Alexandra having to go on a road trip with Dolan to stop her sister from getting married and ruining their family, it kind of played out in a, typical way. I don't know how to describe it too well, but from what I remember, I felt as if it wasn't very natural or realistic the way the story was playing out. Of course, it's fiction, but it's historical romance fiction. And for me, I wanted there to be less humor behind it. It did feel like there were some moments that I didn't fully understand the humor, or I felt like it was too corny, even for my standards. I don't mind a corny joke, but in this case, I was just not having it. I gave that 3 out of 5 stars. Now, for my first fan fiction, I read Manacled by SenLinYu. This book was actually constructed now to be published under this title's name. Of course, different character names. There will be different magical elements from what I've heard so far, just to avoid the copyright issue of it being, Hermione fanfiction turned into a published book that is fair and legal, but still maintaining the same, or what I assume to be the same idea that inspired Manacled, with it being Harry Potter meets Handmaid's Tale. And I think that comparison holds up. Enriching, it's detailed, it's heartbreaking, because a lot of the characters that we know and love from the series, whether it's in the books or in the movies, are killed off in this book. And it's a pretty thick one, but you know what? I was thankful enough to be aware of the Spotify playlist that is just full recording or audiobook of this. So I will try to remember to link that down below. But I really enjoyed this because Hermione is, of course, considering the Handmaid's Tale element, she doesn't remember a lot of the events from the war that occurred, Harry passing. She doesn't really remember her history of the past, I think a couple years or something like that. Whereas Draco, he's very mysterious, but very powerful, and Voldemort assigns her to his family under this plan to try to get the magical population to reproduce, and she essentially becomes the surrogate, the unwilling surrogate of Draco and his wife. But yeah, I really thought this was well put together. 5 out of 5 stars. And of course, I read another short story after this author. Forever is composed of nows, and that short story is following offspring of a couple of the characters that we know and love from Harry Potter, but I'm not going to reveal who those are, because you just have to go ahead and read Manacled and the short story that follows afterwards for the next generation. I also enjoyed that, but I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I would have liked it to be more detailed, but again, it's a short story, so there's only so much that can happen, and it's friends to lovers. So yeah. And those are all the books that I read for January 2024. Let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of these, or if you have any recommendations for me, whatever you like. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this Get Ready With Me. It's the first one I tried. Hope to get better at both makeup and filming. But I think I did pretty good. I mean, it looks fine on camera to me. But until next time, my name is Alexis. Take care and happy reading.